Good evening, everybody. So today's the topic is atomic structure. So in this chapter, you are going to learn define electronic configuration, explain Dalton's atomic theory and its failure, discuss Thomas' atomic model and explain their limitations, Rutherford's atomic model and explain their limitations, explain the Bohr's model of atom, discovery of neutron, define valency and correlate the electronic configuration of an atom with valency, and define atomic number and mass number of an atom. Lastly, you are going to discuss about the isotopes and the isobars. Now, let us understand what do you mean by electronic configuration. So when we see the definition of electronic configuration, it is the description of arrangement of electrons in the atom. It seems to be very simple. It is a description of arrangement of electrons in the atom. So what does it mean? It means that the electrons will get arranged in an atom, that is in the shells of an atom, following a certain rule. There is a specific rule in which they occupy the shells of an atom, and this specific rule is called as electronic configuration. So how do they occupy, in what rule they will occupy? So this description is nothing but the electronic configuration. So you can see the diagram on the right side. You have a 1s2, 2s2, which is in a form of a diagonal form. You can see a diagonal lines are passing through them, right? So here the electrons, what are these 1s2, 2s2? So these are the subshells. So an atom will have a shells, that is KLMN. As I told you already in a chemical bonding chapter, it will have 4 shells, KLMN, and these KLMN shells will have the subshells you are seeing in a diagram, that is SPDF. So these are the subshells which are present in a shells. So the electrons will occupy the subshells based on the diagonal rule. What the diagram you are seeing on the right side, it is called as a diagonal rule, right? What do you mean by diagonal rule? It means that the electrons will occupy the lowest shell first, lowest energy shell. So which is the lowest energy shell here? 1s2, the top one. So this is the lowest energy shell. So electron first occupy the 1s2. Next, if there are still more electrons, it goes for 2s2. Then it will come to 2p6, and then it will go to the 3s2, so go on. So this is how the electrons will occupy the subshells of an atom, and this description is nothing but electronic configuration. So we'll see this with the help of an example. So when you see down, right, electronic configuration chart, I have an example for you to understand better. That is potassium. You can see K, right? K19. It is a element potassium which is having an atomic number 19. So let us see how does the electrons, 19 electrons will fill the shells of a potassium atom. So down you can see it is filling as 1s2, then comes the 2s2, then 2p6, right, 3s2, 3p6, and 4s1. When you add the upper script, that is 2 plus 2 plus 6 plus 2, when you add, the total will be 19. Superscript, when you add, the total will be 19. So this is how all the atoms get filled their shells based on a certain rule, which is called as a diagonal rule, and this description is called as a electronic configuration. So what is the use of this electronic configuration, right? So the electronic configuration will specify the properties of an element, right? So it is useful in the explaining the properties of the elements. Based on the number of electrons which are present in the last shell, that is outermost shell, it will determine whether the element is a metal, whether it is a non-metal, whether it is a metalloid. So based on the presence of number of electrons in the outermost shell, the electronic configuration will define its properties. We'll move on to the next important topic, as I told you, right, useful in explaining the properties of the elements. So in the field of chemistry, there was a research was going on to study about the atom, because whatever is present in the nature is made up of atom, as I told you, right? So what is the structure of this atom? So there was most of the scientists were finding out the structure of the atom. One of the biggest breakthrough was by the Dalton. He has put forth his theory, that is called as Dalton's atomic theory, and he has given 5 postulates in his Dalton's atomic theory. Let us study one by one. So first postulate says that all matter is comprised of tiny definite particles called atoms. Secondly, atoms are indivisible and indestructible, means they are neither be divided nor they cannot be destroyed. Third postulate says that all atoms of a particular element share identical properties, including weight. Every atom has the same property and same weight. Fourth, it says that atoms of different elements contain different mass. Each element has a different mass. And lastly, atoms of different elements combine in a fixed whole number ratios when forming the compounds. It means that, I'll give you the best example, H2O. Right? So there are 2 hydrogen and 1 oxygen. There cannot be 2.5 hydrogen. No, they cannot be 2.5. There should be a whole number. Atoms always combine in a whole number ratios to form a compound. Say example, that is a water. So these are the 5 postulates which was given by the Daltons. Right? The first postulate was very important. That is, all the matter is comprised of tiny definite particles called as atoms. And second one, it is indivisible and indestructible. Because of the second postulate, the Dalton's atomic theory was been failed. So let us see what is the limitations of the Dalton's atomic theory. So when we see the limitations, the discovery of electron, proton led to the failure of Dalton's atomic theory. It is because the scientist, that is J.J. Thomson and the Goldstein, discovered electron and proton respectively. J.J. Thomson discovered the electron and the Goldstein discovered the proton, which were the subatomic particles, means they are the particles which are present inside the atom. This was been discovered by these 2 scientists. But the Dalton said that atom is indivisible. It is indivisible. So this point was been failed after the discovery of electron and the proton. So this was one of the limitation of Dalton's atomic theory. And also the another reason for the failure of Dalton's atomic theory is the phenomena of radioactivity. What do you mean by radioactivity? It refers to the particles which are emitted from the nuclei as a result of nuclear instability. What do you mean by nuclei here? The nuclei is nothing but the nuclei of an atom, right? So radioactivity is a phenomena where small particles were emitted from the nucleus of an atom. But Dalton told that the atom is indivisible. So because of this particular postulate, the Dalton's atomic theory was being failed. So after his theory, the next great scientist has come forward with his specific atomic model, that is J.J. Thomson. He has put forth his theory. He explained that an atom can be considered as a large sphere of uniform positive charge with a number of small negatively charged electrons scattered throughout it. This model was called as a plum pudding model. So you can see the diagram, right? So what Thomson said, that atoms is considered like a very large sphere. It is considered as a large sphere with uniform distribution of positive charge. You can see the great plus sign, right? And a small negatively charged particles are being scattered over it. I can give you a best example for this model is watermelon, right? Hope you know watermelon. So watermelon, the pulp of the fruit of a watermelon, you consider it as a positive charge, whereas the seeds of the watermelon, you consider it as a negative charge. So this model was been given the name as a plum pudding model. Plum in the sense fruit in which there are small puddings, that is a negative charge. So this was the theory which was been given by the Thomson. But Thomson also faced some limitations. So let us see what are the limitations. Thomson atomic model failed to explain how the positive charge holds on the electrons inside the atom, and it also failed to explain an atom's stability. Right? So when the negative charges are being scattered over the positive charge, there are chances of repulsion between the negative charges. So he couldn't explain how the stability of an atom could be maintained. So this was one of the greatest limitation of the J.J. Thomson. So we can say the limitation of J.J. Thomson atomic model is instability of atom. After Thomson atomic model, the next great scientist came with his atomic model, that is Rutherford's atomic model. So Rutherford has carried out alpha scattering experiment. He has carried out an experiment to study the structure of an atom. So this experiment is also called as a gold foil experiment, because he has used the gold foil to pass the alpha particles. So what he did, he took a gold foil, like you know that aluminium foil, similarly like a gold foil. He has taken a gold foil and allowed the alpha particles to pass through it. When he passed the alpha particles through it, to his surprise, he saw that most of the rays has passed without any deviation. You could see in a diagram, like most of the rays were passing without any deviation. Whereas only say 1 in a million of the rays, 1 in the million of the alpha particle rays were being completely retraced its path. Yes, at the center you can see it is completely retracing its path. That is only 1 ray has been retracing. But only few rays were been deflecting. Only few rays were been deflecting away. So Rutherford in the year of 1911, after carrying out the alpha scattering experiment, he proposed his model. So what was the result of this experiment? Let us see. We'll see the sum of the what was the result of this experiment. According to Rutherford atomic model, he said that an atom contains a dense and positively charged region located at its center. Since the helium is also positively charged and it has been completely retracing its path, so Rutherford told that there must be something positive charged at the center. So he told it contains a dense and positively charged region located at the center, and he called it as a nucleus. It was called as a nucleus. This was one of the inference of his experiment. Secondly, he told that all positive charge of an atom and most of its mass was been contained in the nucleus. Since the particle, that is helium ray, was completely retracing its path, so he told that most of the mass and most of the positive charge is at the center in the form of a nucleus. Next, he told that the rest of the atom, the third one, the rest of an atom must be empty space. That is, other than the nucleus, the rest of the space of an atom should be an empty, which contains much smaller and negatively charged electrons. Why did he got this inferences? Because only few number of rays were been deflecting its path. Only few number of rays, that is, you can see the small blue color balls are nothing but the electrons, right? Only few of them were been deflecting the path. So he told that there are very small number of electrons in the empty space of an atom. So these were the three inference from the experiment, that is alpha scattering experiment by the Rutherford. Now, the Rutherford also experienced some of the limitations. So what are those? So limitations of Rutherford atomic model. Firstly, it couldn't explain about the stability of atom and the distribution of electrons around the nucleus. Yes, Rutherford explained that electrons are being distributed in the empty space of an atom, but he did not tell that how they are distributed. Whether they are scattered, whether they are present in a form of a circle, he did not explain about it. So that was one of a drawback. And also he couldn't explain about the stability of an atom. Secondly, inability to explain the relationship between the atomic mass and the atomic number. So he couldn't give any relationship between how they are related. That is atomic mass. He told that mass was being concentrated in the nucleus, but he couldn't give any relationship between the atomic mass and the atomic number of an atom. So these two were, we can say, drawbacks of the Rutherford, or we can say these are some of the limitations of the Rutherford atomic model. Next, most important scientist, that is Bohr. He is one of a student of a Rutherford. He has come up with his model, that is Bohr atomic model, and he has overcome the limitations of the Rutherford's atomic model by giving the two important postulates of atomic model. So let us see what are those. Postulate 1 states that the electrons move in a definite circular paths of fixed energy around a central nucleus. Yes. So you can see the diagram on the right side. What the first postulate states, the electrons move in a definite circular path. The Rutherford did not explain this. He just told that electrons are present in an empty space. But Bohr told that they are present in a definite circular paths. Like path 1, as I told you, K, L, M, N are the 4 shells, right? So this is the first shell is K shell, second shell is L shell, right? And third shell is a M shell, and lastly it is a N shell. So these are the 4 shells in which the electrons will revolve. So this first limitation was been overcome by the Bohr's atomic model. He also explained that the circular paths around the nucleus are allowed for the electrons to move. So what are the circular paths? They are nothing but they are allowed for the electrons to move in them, and these paths are called orbits, or they are also called as energy levels. They are called as energy levels, or you can say they are energy shells. Okay, we'll move to the next one. The electron moving in the orbit does not radiate energy. It does not radiate. It does not any energy, and it does not lose energy. Whenever it is revolving within the orbits, it does not either radiate the energy nor it lose the energy, and these orbits are called as stationary orbits, or they are also called as stationary states. Since they do not radiate the energy or do not lose the energy, we can say that our atom is stable. So one of the limitation of the Rutherford, that is the instability of the atom, was been overcome by the Bohr's atomic model. We can say that atom is stable since the electrons which are revolving in the orbits are stationary orbits. So first important postulate has overcome 2 limitations of the Rutherford. Now he has given postulate 2. What does it states? The electrons can change its shell or energy level by absorbing or releasing the energy. That is, if an electron wants to move from one shell to the another shell, it can do that either by absorbing the energy or by the releasing the energy. An electron at a lower state of energy, say EI, can go to a final higher state of energy, that is EF, by absorbing a single photon of energy, which has been given by the formula E is equal to h nu, right? E is equal to h nu. What is this? That is how much energy an electron will take to move from first shell to the fourth shell. First shell, we have four shells, K, L, M, N, right? So the lowest shell is a K shell. So if it want to move from first shell to the last shell, it has to absorb the energy which has been given by the formula, that is E is equal to h nu. So what is this h? H is a constant which has been given by the scientist Planck's. So h is a Planck's constant, and nu, that is in the form of a letter B, we say it as nu. So this nu is nothing but it is the frequency of radiation emitted by the electron when it has been moving from first shell to the last shell. What is nu? It is a frequency of the radiation. You can see a blue color, right? So it is a radiation which has been emitted by an electron when it is moving from first shell to the last shell. So the greater the radiation, frequency of the radiation, greater the energy absorbed. So this was the second postulate which was been given by the Bohr's atomic model. The Bohr's model of atom removes the two limitations of the Rutherfords. Yes, we saw the two limitations of Rutherford. What are those? That is instability of an atom and distribution of electrons, right? So these two limitations was been overcome by his student, that is a Bohr, by proposing his atomic model, that is related to the stability of an atom and the distribution of electrons around the nucleus. But Bohr's atomic model couldn't explain one thing. What is that? He couldn't explain about the third limitations of the Rutherford's model, which was the inability to explain relationship between the atomic mass and the atomic number. So Bohr's atomic model was successful, but he couldn't overcome the last limitation of the Rutherford, that is relationship between the atomic mass and atomic number. So this was been overcome by the next important breakthrough in the field of chemistry, that is the discovery of neutrons, right? The discovery of neutron was being done by the scientist James Chadwick. He has discovered a particle, that is James Chadwick, in the year of 1932. He discovered a particle in the year of 1932. He found that this particle was electrically neutral. Neutral in the sense it was neither positive nor it was negative. It was electrically neutral, and he named it as neutron. So what is this neutron? Neutrons are present in the nucleus of all the atoms except hydrogen. So this was being discovered by the James Chadwick. By the discovery of neutron, we could find a relationship between the atomic mass and the atomic number. So let us study what is the relationship between the atomic mass and the atomic number. What do you mean by atomic number? The nucleus of an atom contains positively charged particles called protons and neutral charged particles called neutrons. Yes, the nucleus, that is which is present at the center, it always consists of positive charged particles, protons, and neutral charged particles, neutrons. The number of protons in an atom is called atomic number. It is always denoted by the letter Z, capital letter Z. It means that atomic number is nothing but the total number of protons present in an atom or the total number of protons present in a nucleus. It is denoted by the letter Z. What do you mean by mass number? Mass number, the number of nucleons in the nucleus of an atom, is called as mass number. Nucleons in the sense the total number of neutrons and the protons togetherly in an atom is called as a mass number. It is denoted by the letter A, capital A, and is equal to the number of protons and the neutrons present in the nucleus of an element. It means that suppose we have a mass number and the number of neutrons present in an atom, we can find the atomic number. That is, by subtracting the number of neutrons in a mass number, we get the number of protons, which is nothing but atomic number. So from this we can find a relationship, right? So mass number is equal to, that is, number of protons plus number of neutrons present in an atom. We'll move on to the next important topic, that is isobars and isotopes. What do you mean by isobars? The isobars have a same number, same mass number, but different atomic number. The elements which are present in a nature, they have a same mass number, but they have different atomic number. For example, potassium and calcium. Here, potassium has atomic number 19. I'm showing you the mass number here. They have same mass number. Potassium has a mass number 40, calcium has a mass number 40, but potassium has an atomic number 19 and calcium has atomic number 20. So here potassium and calcium has same mass number. They have same mass number, that is 40, but they have different atomic number, that is 19 and 20 respectively. So we call them as a isobars. Now what do you mean by isotopes? Isotopes are those elements having same atomic number but different mass number. That is just vice versa to isobars. They have same mass number, different atomic number. Isotopes have same atomic number but different mass number. For example, carbon 12. Carbon 12 has the three isotopes, that is carbon 13 and carbon 14. They have a different mass number, that is 12, 13 and 14. So these are the three elements which are example for the isotopes. We'll move on to the next important concept of the atomic structure, that is concept of valence or valency. Different elements have different number of electrons in the outermost or the valence shell. These electrons in the outermost shell are known as valence electrons. Yes, the number of electrons present in the outermost shell of an atom, they are called as a valence electrons. As we saw in the first slide, that is electronic configuration. So when I told you, that is, there are four important shells, KLMN, which each of them has a subshells, that is SPDF. So the number of electrons which are present in outermost shell, those electrons we call them as a valence electrons. So I'll show you one small example for this. Silicon, right? So silicon, you can see here, it is having an atomic number 14. So when we write its electronic configuration, so 1s2, 2s2, 2p6, 3s2 and 3p6. So here the third shell, which is a third shell, that is a 3s2 and 3p2. Actually the p shell can occupy 6 number of electrons maximum. Since the atomic number of silicon is only 14, so we have to fill only 2 electrons. So the last shell is, that is 3s2 and 3p2. So that shell have 4 electrons. So the valence electron is 4. Whereas the other electrons, they are called as the core electrons. That is, which is present in a 1s2, 2s2 and 2p6, they are called as a core electrons, whereas the outermost shell electrons are called as valence electrons. Now these valence electrons are the one which are been involved in a bonding. It may be a sharing of electrons or it may be the donation of electrons. So till now we studied some of the important concepts of the atomic structure. So you have studied about the most important topic, that is electronic configuration. We also studied some of the important models of the atom proposed by the eminent scientists like Bohr's atomic model, Rutherford's atomic model, Dalton's atomic model, and also saw some of the limitations of the atomic model. And we saw the importance of the neutrons in an atom, which brings about the relationship between the atomic number and mass number. We studied what do you mean by atomic number, what do you mean by mass number, and also studied the definition of isobars and isotopes. Lastly, we studied the concept of valency. Now let us see some of the question answers on this topic. So first one, name two charged particles which constitute all matter. Any two charged particles which constitute all the matter. The matter is made up of atom. So any two charged particles present in an atom. Okay. Answer is, it is electron and the protons. So we have two charged particles and one uncharged particle in an atom. So one is electron, which is negatively charged, proton positively charged, neutron, that is a neutral charged. Second one, name the negatively charged particles emitted from the cathode in a cathode ray tube. So which is a negatively charged particle which was emitted from the cathode in a cathode ray tube? Any answers? Okay, it is the electron. So which is a negatively charged particle? It is a electron. Describe the Thomson's model of atom and what is it called? So as we studied the Thomson's atomic model, right? So how can we explain or how can we describe the Thomson's atomic model in short? And what is it called? Right? I have given it an example of a watermelon, right? So what is it called as? Okay. According to the Thomson's model, atom can be considered as a large sphere of uniform positive charge with a number of small negatively charged electrons scattered throughout it. This model was being called as plum pudding model. Very important, it is called as a plum pudding model. Fourth one, name the element which has completely filled first shell. So first shell is the 1s. That is, it has completely filled first shell. Which element it is? For this, you should have a knowledge of atomic number. So any answer here? That is the element which has an atomic number 2, you can say. So which is the element? Okay. So the answer is helium. Hydrogen is having atomic number 1 and helium is having atomic number 2. So 1 is 2. So first shell is completely filled. Fifth one, write the electronic configuration of an element having an atomic number equal to 11. So I told you how to fill the shells. So if you write in a form of a KLMN shells also, it's fine. So what is the electronic configuration of an element having an atomic number 11? So here the 11 atomic number is sodium. Sodium element have that is atomic number 11. The electronic configuration of an element having atomic number 11 is 2A1. That is 1s2, that is first shell, 2s2, 2p6. That is 2s2, 2p6, 8 shell, 3s1. So this is 2 plus 8 is 10, 10 plus 1 is 11. So sixth one, the chemical behavior of an atom depends upon. You have an options for this. Whether it depends upon the number of protons in its nucleus or number of neutrons in the nucleus or number of electrons orbiting around the nucleus, or it is the number of nucleons in the nucleus. So on what basis that is a chemical behavior of an atom, or you can say the properties of an atom depends on? Any answers? Okay, so it depends upon the number of electrons orbiting around the nucleus. That is, as I told you, the valence electrons which determines the property of an atom. The atomic number of carbon is 6 and its atomic mass is 12. How many are there protons in the nucleus of carbon? So here we have studied the relationship between the atomic number and mass number. So they have given the mass of an atom is 12 and the atomic number of a carbon is 6. They are asking how many are there protons in the nucleus of carbon? Any answer? So the answer is depend on the definition of atomic number. Yes. We have an options 6, 12, 18, 0. So what is atomic number? It is nothing but number of protons present in an atom is atomic number. So they have given us atomic number. What it is? 6. And they are asking how many protons are there in the nucleus. So it is as simple as the answer is 6. Right? Since we have atomic number 6, they are asking the protons. So it is a directly related. Number of protons is nothing but the atomic number. Which of the following gases will effuse out of a football bladder most quickly? So whenever a football will lose its gas present in it, that is a football bladder, that is a football without a gas is nothing but football bladder. So which gas is emitted most quickly? You have an options, that is helium, hydrogen, nitrogen and oxygen. Any answers? So the answer is, it is a hydrogen. Hydrogen is a chemical element with a symbol capital H and having atomic number 1. It is one of the lightest element we can say, right? With an average atomic weight of 1.00794 units. Hydrogen is the lightest element and it is a monoatomic form. And it is one of the most abundant chemical substance. We'll go for the next one. Hydrogen is not found in atmosphere because it is not found in atmosphere because it is highly inflammable, means it catches fire very quickly. It is the lightest gas. It is absorbed by the plants and it is immediately combines with the oxygen to form a water. So what is the reason that it is not found in atmosphere? As I told you in the last question, the answer is, it is the lightest gas. Hydrogen is one of the lightest gas, so it couldn't be found in the atmosphere. The same thing again, it is one of the lightest element and it is a monoatomic form, that is H1. It is having since atomic number 1, so we call it as a monoatomic form. It is H1. It is one of the most abundant chemical substance which is found in nature. The major constituent of air is, so which is a major constituent of air out of all the 4 gases, which is the major, means which is found in high concentration? Is it nitrogen, carbon dioxide, oxygen or hydrogen? Any answers, any guesses? So you should have a knowledge of a constituent of air. So it is nitrogen. What is the answer? It is nitrogen. Depending on various geographical locations, these may change. That is, concentration of the constituents may change. But for most part, air is made up of 78% of nitrogen. Out of 100%, we have 78% of nitrogen, 21% of oxygen, and trace amount of carbon dioxide, methane, that is CH4, hydrogen, argon, and helium. The carbon dioxide, methane, hydrogen, argon and helium, when combined together, they make up only 1% of our air. They are found in a very minute quantities. Helium gas is filled in balloons because Why do the balloons are filled with the helium gas only? It's because its atomic number is 2, it is a lighter than air, it is one of the constituents of water, it is a noble gas. Any guesses? Okay. So the answer is it is lighter than air. Helium is the second lightest element, as the first lightest element is hydrogen. Helium is the second lightest element and is the second most abundant element in the observable universe, being present at about 24% of the total elemental mass, which is more than 12 times the mass elemental and heavier than the elements combined together. That is, out of 24 of the total element mass, it is 12 times heavier than when the elements are combined. A well-known but minor use is a lifting gas in balloons and airships. So it is much more used in the lifting gas in balloons and in the airships. The number of neutrons present in an element having a mass number 226 and atomic number 88 is. They have given mass number and they have given the atomic number. They are asking us find out the number of neutrons present in it. So the options are 88, 138, 314, 50. So here you have to do some mathematical work here. So we know that what is the mass number? That is total number of protons and neutrons. What is the atomic number? It is the total number of protons. So just subtract the atomic number from the mass number. You will get the answer. That is 226 minus 88. So the answer will be okay. So answer will be 138, I think. Let us see. Yes, the answer will be 138. The mass number is a count of number of particles in an atom's nucleus, which is made up of protons and neutrons. Mass number is nothing but total number of protons and neutrons. In other words, mass number is equal to number of protons plus number of neutrons. The atomic number is the number of protons in an atom of an element. That is, we are doing, as I told you, that is 226 minus 88. You will get the number of neutrons, that is 138. The number of neutrons present in an element having a mass number, we'll go for the next one. An atom of an element has atomic number 17 and a mass number 36. The number of neutrons in its nucleus is the same as the previous one. We have atomic number 17 here and a mass number 36. So we have to find out number of neutrons in it. So same thing here, just subtract 17 from 36. So we'll get the answer. So the answer is 19. Yes, mass number is equal to number of protons, atomic number, plus number of neutrons. So as per the question, 36 is the number of neutrons plus 17. So the number of neutrons is equal to 36 minus 17. That is 9. It has to be 19. So next one. Write the electronic configuration of an element having atomic number equal to 11. So it is simple. That is, as I told you, that is sodium, which is having atomic number 11. So it is a 281. Again, it is 281. Name the element which has completely filled first shell. So element which has completely filled its first shell. It is a helium. Yes. The mass number of a nucleus is. So we have studied the definition of a mass number. So they're asking, what do you mean by mass number of a nucleus? Is it always less than its atomic number? Is it always more than its atomic number? or whether it is always equal to its atomic number, or sometimes more and sometimes equal to its atomic number. Okay, it is option 4, sometimes more and sometimes equal to its atomic number. We cannot say it is always, sometimes it may be more or sometimes it might be equal to its atomic number. See, mass number is nothing but the protons or the mass of an electron plus neutrons. That is, total number of protons and neutrons is nothing but the mass number. So it is most greater than the atomic number, but sometimes it may be equal to its atomic number. The electronic configuration of an atom having atomic number 20 is, so here the atomic number 20 is calcium. So you have to write the electronic configuration of atomic number, that is 20. So they have given the options. So when you count them, so which is the right answer? Any guesses? Like 2, 8, 10, it is 18. 2, 6, 8, 4, it is 20. Though it is 20, but the distribution has to be correct. Even the third option also gives you 20. And the last options also give you 20. So based on the how they fill the shell, first shell should have 2 electrons, second shell should have 8 electrons, third shell should have 8 electrons, last shell will have, that is, 2 electrons. So the option 3 is correct. So 2, 8, 8, 2. They occupy the shell around the outside of an atom. There can be up to 2 electrons in the first shell and up to the 8 in the second one and up to the 8 in the third one. That is, it is a calcium atom which is having a electronic configuration, that is 2882. When there are 2 electrons in the same orbital, they have, as I told you, in the shells there are electrons. If there are 2 electrons in the same shell, how they are arranged? Whether they are of same spin, whether they are of opposite spin, same or opposite spin, or they do not spin at all. So the answer is they have opposite spin. In case of 2 electrons occupying the same orbital, according to the Pauli's principle, demands that they have an opposite spin. It is because since the electrons are same charge, there are chances of repelling each other, so they will have to maintain the stability, they will have a opposite spin. The nucleus of an atom consists of, whether it consists of proton, neutron, proton and neutron, electron, proton and neutron. So any answers? Whether it consists of proton, neutron, electron, proton and neutron. That is nucleus of an atom. Okay. So the answer is proton and neutron. What particles move around the nucleus of an atom and are negatively charged? There are some particles which are moving around the nucleus of an atom and they are negatively charged. What are they called as? They are electrons, protons, positrons or neutrons. So the answer is electrons. So circling around outside the nucleus are the tiny particles called electrons. Electrons have a negative charge. Electrons spin as they circle the nucleus billions of times every second. So they are very fast in revolving around the nucleus. That is billions of times. They are arranged in energy levels around the nucleus. When the electrons gains or lose the energy, they jump between the energy levels as they are rotating around the nucleus. So this was the chapter of atomic structure. So we have gone through some of the important questions. If you have any other queries, so just visit the edurapid.com site You can practice still more questions on this website. So all the best for your exams. Thank you.